everybody, this is my book report book. It was written by Louise Saha. The title is Sideways Story from Wayside School, and I decided to do an interview of this book. I will be the fan of the author and my mom will be the interviewer. These are my questions that I will answer, and these are my facts. Page numbers, dates, by Milan, or the genre. So I want to start the interview.
Okay, your first question is, what's your name, please?
Louise.
And where do you come from?
England.
How old are you?
10.
Okay. How old were you when you first read Louise Zahar's book?
I think I was 5.
Okay.
When I read.
Why did you like this author?
He has funny stories, also silly, so it's a little bit confusing for the first time, but I really like it.
Okay. Which of his novel was your favorite and why?
Wayside School was my favorite because I thought it's so funny that they want to build it wayside, but they build it sideways, so it was funny that they built it like that.
Okay, and what was your last book that you read from him?
I think the Sideways stories.
What do you know about the author?
That he was born in New York, but he grew up in Poors, and that he is now 60, and he didn't die yet.
What does he write?
He writes fiction for kids.
Only kids, as you know?
Yeah, I know, only for kids.
Have you ever met him?
No.
Do you know about any movie or cartoon based on his stories?
I don't heard anything of a movie or cartoon, but I think it could be, yeah, sure.
Tell us a little bit about the story of this book, the last one you read.
Sideways story was funny. There was 30 chapters from a class at the 13th story. There was, I think, 26 of children's and 4 from teachers. Louise, the art teacher, Mrs. Gorf, their first teacher, and Mrs. Zarf, who never lived, and there's no 19th story.
The other teacher is?
Mrs. Jewis. Once their first teacher was Mrs. Gorf. She was the meanest teacher in the whole school, so they probably don't like her. And once she wanted to turn Allison to an apple, but Allison had a glass, and the power of Mrs. Gorf went back, and she turned to an apple. And 5 minutes later, Louise, the art teacher, came in, and he ate the apple. So Mrs. Gorf died, and then they don't know where is Mrs. Gorf, so the new teacher is Mrs. Jules.
And what about the children in the class?
They are silly, odd, and funny. Todd is great, isn't that funny. DJ is every moment smiling, and he don't know why, but he is always smiling, so that's funny.
And who are your favorites from the children?
Terence, because he always shoots balls out of the garden. There was a chapter of him, and it was funny because he always shoots the red balls away out the fence.
Anybody else?
I like Louise, the art teacher, because he liked children, and at the end he tell a story from a school that was wayside, and they liked dead rats and always the opposite. This school was the opposite, so it was for them a little bit, I don't know, silly.
Okay. Did the school have a big garden?
Yeah, it was really big. It have football pitch, I think. It has a basketball pitch, and it has lots of more playing grounds.
When do